Hey guys, welcome back to Total Tactics FPL. It's Fran here, and I'm back with my Gameweek 22 free hit team selection. So we actually have just gotten the news of the double game weeks, and the games are going to be Burnley versus Watford, Brighton versus Chelsea, Leicester versus Spurs, and Brentford versus Man United. So these four teams, or eight teams rather, will have these four fixtures in addition to their single game week games. And it's a great opportunity to go for a free hit if you haven't, for example, gone for a wild card in 21. And even if you actually did go for a wild card in 21 and maybe it's gone very far from expectations in terms of the double game weeks, you could also still go for a free hit at this point in time. It's really up to you how you'd like to play it. I think clearly the best games to target are going to be Watford attackers versus that Burnley game. Chelsea is a little bit of a tricky one because they do have a single game week versus City. And then Brighton have, of course, a tough matchup versus Chelsea, especially when their most interesting assets probably are their defenders, because I don't think their midfielders and attackers are that consistent. You could obviously still go for someone like a Mopé or even a Trossard, but I just think there are better options in midfield attack this game week to go for than Brighton attackers and midfielders. So it makes sense to actually go for Brighton defenders at this point in time. You also have Leicester versus Spurs, so I think the only interesting assets here is going to be aside from a triple Spurs, where maybe you could go for Son and Kane. I would actually probably prefer going for Son and two Spurs defenders because we know Spurs are a very solid defense, and their chance to get a clean sheet over 2 games, I think, is exceptionally high. Not only that, but Leicester will be missing a lot of key attackers, so I think the only interesting Leicester asset from this point of view is going to be Maddison. And with Brentford versus Man United, I'm not very confident in Brentford's ability to keep a clean sheet, so there's no real interest in the Brentford defenders there, nor am I interested really in Brentford through the attackers and their midfielders. So Canos, Tony, and Bumo, or even Wisa, for example, aren't interesting options whatsoever. With United, we know that they aren't the best team, but ultimately they have two very simple and easy games to pick from. So I would probably be quite happy to go with, let's say, De Gea as a keeper during this kind of team selection, and probably going for someone like Ronaldo. The midfielders is going to be a little bit of a gamble. I think there's going to be scope for one midfielder for every three-hit draft to be quite different, and that could be either a Mount, a Fernandes, or a Sancho. It's really up to you. I don't think you need to actually spread your budget completely. This game week, you're going to be focusing on a lot of players who are probably going to be quite cheap, but it's about getting the maximum amount of points, and so that's probably how we're going to have a look at that kind of free hit team selection. So I've actually gone and created a free hit team selection. The idea behind this is probably going to be playing, let's say, a 4-3-3. And the reason why I say this is because for me, there's one option. You can either go for 3-4-3 and maybe change Alexander-Arnold for someone like Gordon in this team, because Gordon has a single game against Norwich and he's just on the bench. Trent can be replaced for someone like Mount, who gets 2 games actually. And that's a great opportunity to play basically a full team of double game week players who have great games. Now, I do think Trent has a great game versus Brentford because they've lost a lot of defensive players, and they've also just lost Onyeka to AFCON. So that's quite a nice plus for me to go for Trent in a single game. You could also go for Jota as well if you'd like. That's another option there. But I think the kind of best structure is probably going to be a mix between a 3-4-3 and a 4-3-3. The reason why is because the forwards are just the best options this week, and Ronaldo, Dennis, and Kane for me all have fantastic games. Ronaldo, we know, is still the talisman of this Wolves team, and with his kind of fitness at this age, or sorry, this United team, and with his kind of fitness, he is basically a paramount option. You also have the opportunity to go for Kane, as I mentioned, but I really like Son's ability to kind of cover this game week, and I would probably prefer going for Ronaldo, to be quite honest, because Son has the benefit of going for set pieces, and I think the Spurs defenders are a very good kind of option to double up with in this double game week. And King and Dennis just really can't be missed. Their fixtures are basically perfect. You've got Newcastle, you've got Burnley. Those are both teams that should really be conceding, and I imagine that it's going to be a situation where there's going to be both teams scoring. And King has still looked quite good lately, so if you've seen his kind of chances, you've been watching him in games, he's created a lot of chances, he created assists as well, and for me, he is a great double up with Dennis this week. Maddison is going to be my kind of X factor in the midfield. I think he is an absolute must in this specific game week. Son as well is a must, but he's already a part of maybe 80% or 85% of FPL teams. You wouldn't really be having much of a differential by having Son. Now, the Fernandes spot is a little bit more debatable. I think Fernandes can be swapped, as I said, with someone like Mount, or you can go for 4 midfielders and maybe replace Gordon, as I said, with Mount. That's another opportunity as well. In terms of defense, I would probably go for a back 4, but you can also change this to a back 3. So you can maybe, if you don't want to go for Trent, you can go for someone like Sanchez, Cucurella, and Reguilon. The reason why, as I said, is Spurs defense makes a lot more sense this week, and Cucurella is a great option from the Brighton team, who actually plays much more consistent minutes than Lamptey, because we have seen Lamptey get subbed on and off lately, and it's not really a good guarantee of points over a double game week. You'd really rather have someone who plays maybe 90 minutes for 2 games in a row. So maybe if we, let's say, drop Trent, we can go for, or maybe we can still keep Trent in our team. And then we can kind of maybe move Gordon into someone like Mount as well. We don't have exactly the perfect amount of money for that, but we can maybe replace a Sanchez, for example, with another keeper, such as a Bachman, who has a double game week, and maybe we can just replace Sissoko with someone like Gordon as well. So this is also another kind of opportunity that we can go for. We can go for Mount and maybe just play a simple 3-4-3. Trent as a first bench option if you'd really like to do that, and just play around this kind of structure here. But that's pretty much it for the free hit team video. I think it's a very, very simple game week because there are so few fixtures to attack. But everyone really has great games within this team selection here, with maybe exception to Mount, which is why I didn't necessarily like Mount too much in the structure, but it's up to you how you'd like to play this free hit, and best of luck to you guys this game week.